Hello, Mel K here. All of you know how much I love what Maha's doing, but imagine this. I found out that we can do Maha for our animals too. That's right. Make animals healthy again. I absolutely love my puppy Emma and Old Man Skits beyond anything, and I cannot tell you how picky I am with what I give them, whether it's for treats or for the full meal. So when I found Pet Club 24/7, I was all in. It's not only human grade with all natural ingredients, but it packs an incredible proprietary immunosupport for your pets. Emma and Skits seem completely revitalized and full of energy. We have partnered with Pet Club 24/7 to launch MEL K Pets to offer you a full line of nutritious, organic, superfood-based treats and meals for your pets. Their proprietary blend of potent mushroom extract and American farm-grown goodness is superior to anything else I've found so far. Besides the uptick in cancer and increasingly short lifespans of our animals, we all know that the harmful toxins and fillers that are going into our food are also going into their food. So, what do? You start Make Animals Healthy Again with the Mel K Show. Head on over to themelkshow.com and click on Pet Club 24/7 or visit melkpets.com. That's melkpets.com. Your animals deserve it, and so do you. The best family is the healthiest family, and that includes our pets.
Minnesota and these other states, we have massive investigations going into fraud.
Yeah.
Do you know if we captured 50% of the fraud of this country right now, we would have better than a balanced budget? And you got to mention that Minnesota, $19 billion in fraud that we know about. Minnesota and these other states.
Hello. Welcome back to Mornings with the Middle K Show. Running a little late today. Sorry about that, friends and family and everyone, you amazing human beings that support the Middle K Show. We appreciate you being here. It is already.
Yeah, it is Thursday, yeah.
Week flew by. Lots going on. Before I jump in, I'm going to just ask Rob how he's doing and see what he has to say before I go, because I have a lot to talk about today. Go ahead.
Well, I'm doing great. You know, the every day that we get through is kind of an accomplishment, so I feel good about that. It's another day. And wherever you are, please remember to like and subscribe and share. The information warfare out there is extraordinary. We see folks, all over the place attacking each other. We see so much information that is, creating division and confusion and distortion.
To do that. We
don't.
For you to empower yourselves to be the voice of reason and truth in your own sphere of influence. It's going to be every single American that cares about the future of this country that steps up now and gets involved where they live, where they are in their community, their town, their county, their state. We all hands on deck for anyone that would like to save our constitutional republic. Before we jump in, Rob,
I wanted to say a few more things.
He does.
What I was going to say is that it's really important to understand the stakes of the game, the stakes on the table, right? And that's what we really focus on, because that is we, if you care about your children and your grandchildren and this country and those that came before us, that's why we do what we do. And I just want to say that I don't know if you even want me to say this, but I'm going to say it. But General Flynn got a somewhat of a decent outcome. Not really. Yeah. So I mean, I can tell you that all of our personal interactions with him have been, he's always been, America first and we the people first. And I'm glad that at least he's gotten, a little bit. But if he was a black Marxist, he probably would have
hundreds of millions.
Yeah, But that's not the way the world is. I am excited about one other thing.
Excuse me.
So we met these folks who work with Neutronics, and they have this thing called Man's Edge, and it's a testosterone booster. And what I'm excited about,
just some drops under your tongue.
Well, first let me tell you. So I ran out like 2 days ago, and
it was very obvious.
And I was not happy about that. So
you know what I'm saying.
I am on the subscription, so it's coming today. So I'm excited about that. So what you do is you put a few droppers under your tongue, let that sit for 30 seconds or whatever. Anyway, it tastes great. But what we're seeing in America, and a lot of the problems I think that we're seeing, is there's this massive a loss of testosterone. Yes.
The war on men, which if you think that's not true, then you haven't been watching what's been going on closely enough. And I do have to say, there's all kinds of things out there that people take for different things that are affecting testosterone and sexual performance, if I might say that, and energy and all that. This is literally such a difference in Rob, in which, good and bad for me. But it's such a difference in Rob. And I just really think everyone that is out there, taking anything the pharmaceutical companies are throwing, the blue pill, whatever. These guys, this is a 2,000-year-old remedy that is actually deer antler based, and pretty amazing stuff. And I've seen a true difference, and that's why we are proud to team up with Neutronics. So head on over there. We have the QR code on the screen. Of course, Rob can say not only has his sex drive and energy and ability to perform gotten better, but also his mood's gotten better, and his strength and muscle mass and all of that. So, I mean, it's really an amazing discovery here. We're going to have on Dr. Fong again. We really had a great time meeting him, and I want to bring him back because I see a real difference, and you will too. So go to Neutronics. They are the QR code's on the screen, but you can go to Neutronics Labs. That's NUTRONICS labs.com. Use the code /MELK or MELK code at neutronicslabs.com. Get 50% off with auto ship, which Rob highly recommends.
Yeah, no, it's actually a great deal with auto ship, and you also get a free bottle of IGF-1, and that is another kind of performance booster. And if you use code MELK, you get an extra 10% off. So
Yeah.
it's really not that expensive relative to what you're getting, and relative to like a lot of the pharmaceutical and other solutions that are out there. And this is totally natural, and it tastes great, like I said.
You into our private lives, but there's been a real difference from Rob, I'll say. Can I go now?
You can go, but
Neutronicslabs.com/MELK. Just check it out or go there. Women should go there too. There's a ladies formula, and I noticed the difference, but a lot of men have problems, especially when they're getting up there in age. And it's a real amazing natural change over the
I'm going to drop the whole the link in the description as well. Yes,
Thank
we
you
can.
so much. Okay, folks. So despite what you're hearing, it looks like Trump's meeting with Xi, which I am looking forward to, honestly, because I think a lot of things are going to happen at that meeting that are good for the world. So that is coming up. It is booked for May 14th and 15th. Xi and his wife will be visiting the White House. And a lot could happen between now and then. But as of right now, both sides seem pretty motivated. There have been meetings upcoming. There have been meetings already, and there are more meetings upcoming between the different representatives of both Xi and Trump before the meeting. And as we know, we got Venezuela, Iran, oil and gas stuff, Alaska, Russia, Ukraine, all that stuff. So lots to talk about there, and we will see what happens. So that's good news, I think, for the world. Second, Trump finally, all of these lawfare lawsuits, I point directly at Norm Eisen, I'm sorry, and Mark Elias and the rest of the lawfare crew over at Brookings and elsewhere that are being paid to continue to throw sand in the gears of what the will of the people and the vote and the voice of the people want through frivolous lawsuits that are just lawfare. They're just to put sand in the gears to stop Trump from doing anything that he wants to do. And it's one after another coming from the same group that would be Democracy Docket, that is Elias's NGO, and of course Norm Eisen is involved with tons of globalist-funded groups, including States United and what's his other thing, Voter Protection Project. He used to be with the crew, and they keep doing it, but Trump keeps winning. It just goes through the court and wastes taxpayer money while these two lawyers decide that they are above the people and above the president and above what we want with their activist judge friends. So yesterday, the Eighth Circuit overturned one of those ridiculous rulings by activist judge that will uphold Donald Trump and ICE's ability to mass deport illegal aliens. This is a big victory. It was a 2-1. The court held that illegal aliens already residing in the United States can be detained without bond during removal process. Again, this is how it was. They tried to reverse that. And of course, Trump won in court, but again, this should have happened months ago, but Norm Eisen and his friends like to file lawsuits every time Trump does something with the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center and all the usual suspects. But we are back. So detained illegal immigrants can be held without bond and returned home, and that's the way it should be. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Second, not to surprise anyone that watches me, but the United States has had intercepted Ukraine government messaging discussing a plot to root some of our $200 billion that went to Ukraine, which was a total fraud on the people in the world because they knew exactly what they were doing since way back in the 90s, but even more since Victoria Nuland and Blinken and Sullivan and Barack Obama overthrew the duly elected president of Ukraine in 2014, similar to what they did to us in 2016 or tried. And frankly, that that regime that they overthrew, the regime change operation by Obama and the rest of them, the person that they ousted was going to go into normalizing relationships with Russia, which is exactly what Zelensky fraudulently ran on as the actor that he is. But Obama, Nuland, and everyone didn't like that idea. It didn't fit their plan for World War III and another try of destroying Russia and taking over, like the Third Reich, the entire continent of Europe, and then running the world through Brussels and Geneva and using the United States and NATO, which shouldn't exist, as their muscle and their financing and their military. Well, that's not going to happen. But in the meantime, we do have to understand that we deserve a full accounting of all the money that went to Ukraine, especially last week. They found money traveling in cash to Ukraine, millions and millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars, I'm sure. But now we find that apparently U.S. intelligence had intercepted Ukrainian government communications discussing a plot to route hundreds of millions of American taxpayer dollars earmarked for clean energy in the war-torn country. Clean energy, you know, the globalist fraud that they've been playing for decades, and move that money to the United States to enrich President Joe Biden's 2024 re-election campaign. They wanted Joe Biden reelected by any means necessary. And they not only talked about giving money, our money that was in Ukraine, going to fraud and kickbacks and money laundering and everything else that's going on there. They didn't only want to send money to Joe Biden's reelection campaign, but also to the DNC. So Tulsi Gabbard, again, this is why they're going after her. I believe that she is doing the best job in the entire administration, though people don't know. So she gets attacked endlessly. But Tulsi Gabbard recently learned about intercepts that had asked for USAID, which again is not aid, it's international development, or the CIA's clandestine money bags of trillions of American dollars, taxpayer dollars that have gone out of USAID, the financial, like I said, CIA, Black Ops money bags for regime change and things that the American people would never support with our dollars or our brains or hearts. But that's how it's been working since World War II with the rogue State Department CIA operations created by the Dulles brothers and continued until hopefully now. So Gabbard's team found substantial evidence that intercepted allegations were, in fact, trying to launder our money back from Ukraine to the DNC and to Joe Biden. The Ukrainian government and unspecified U.S. government personnel through USAID in Ukraine reportedly developed a plan that would provide hundreds of millions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money to fund an infrastructure project in Ukraine, would be laundered and repurposed to go back to the DNC and Joe Biden to make sure he won re-election in 2024. Of course, he was not there the entire time. We had a cabal surrounding Joe Biden that ran the auto pen. 10 of them were referred by Comer for prosecution or a criminal investigation. None of that has happened. Donald Trump mentioned that last night, that Comer and Jim Jordan have turned into the DOJ multiple requests for criminal referrals. And it looks like the entire weaponization report that was turned in and the entire AutoPen report that was turned in is sitting in the DOJ for some reason. As I said, Trump mentioned it last night. I want to remind everyone right now of how deceived we have been about Ukraine. First of all, the CIA was very, very embedded there. A. B. The Brzezinski plan under Barack Obama, of course, and supported by George Soros, as you can read the 1993 George Soros memo known as the NATO World Order, or Brzezinski's Council of Foreign Relations Trilateral Commission writings of 1995 about the NATO World Order. But at the same time, the 2014 overthrow, Victoria Nuland had to give testimony about what was going on. Now, this is before Donald Trump became president. It might have been before he was the candidate. But I want to remind you who was running Ukraine. It would be the Democratic Party, the Obama administration, NATO, and the EU, and, of course, the Barack Obama State Department. The leader over there was John McCain and Victoria Nuland that fundamentally transformed Ukraine into a NATO, CIA, World War III destination. And the truth of the matter is that I firmly believe that World War II was the end of one phase, but that they all planned to have a World War III using Ukraine and the fall of the USSR to once again try to unite the continent of Europe without Russia to run the world and the banking sector and the supranational infrastructure. So let's just remind ourselves of what actually happened in Ukraine in 2014 and how we ended up having the autopen president jump right in after they stole the election and manipulated the country, and the CIA infiltrated everything they could and convinced us that it was a good thing to go into Ukraine while they pushed Russia past the red line once, twice, three times. This is Victoria Nuland admitting the truth, which is that the CIA and the Obama administration took over Ukraine completely in 2014. So the question should be, and we all know that Zelensky had no background in politics. He was an actor. He was on a TV show, comedy, playing the president, a teacher that became the president. And Kolomoisky and the people behind Burisma really pushed Zelensky into that position. He has no experience at all, but he was an actor and he did a good job. But take a listen to what really happened in Ukraine and who exactly was running it. And then the whole kickback scheme to Joe Biden and the DNC coming into 2024 makes a lot more sense. Please take a listen.
And U.S. advisors serve in almost a dozen Ukrainian ministries and localities, helping to deliver services, eliminate fraud and abuse, improve tax collection, and modernize Ukrainian institutions. With U.S. help, newly vetted and trained police officers are patrolling the streets of 18 Ukrainian cities. In courtrooms across Ukraine, free legal aid attorneys funded by the U.S. have won 2/3 of all the acquittals in the countries. Treasury and State Department advisors have helped Ukraine shutter over 60 failed banks and protected the assets of depositors. And since there can be no reform in Ukraine without security, over $266 million of our support has been in the security sector, training 1,200 soldiers and 750 Ukrainian National Guard personnel, and supplying life-saving gear. In FY16, we are continuing that training and equipment of more of Ukraine's border guards, military, and Coast Guard. And U.S. advisors.
And let's keep in mind that Ukraine is not in NATO, and that was a 2016 prior to Donald Trump. Essentially, Victoria Nuland saying that they took over the judicial system, the police, the courts, the training of troops, and the infrastructure of Ukraine completely, essentially, with our money, mind you. And it was a plan, a long game plan, in my opinion. If you look back to what Obama was doing, their justification for regime change, Samantha Power and the rest of them, they were hoping Hillary Clinton, of course, would go in as president in 2016 and continue on the path to yet again try a third world war, and then in the destruction and reconstruction, refill their coffers, because that has been the EU international banking cartel / global public-private partnership and NATO model since World War I. Destroy the continent, then take U.S. taxpayer billions of dollars to rebuild the continent, and at that point then drive us into Agenda 2030. So again, everything you were told about Ukraine is a lie, and then to hear that they were going to funnel hundreds of millions of dollars, and they might have, into the 2024 election cycle to make sure that Joe Biden and the DNC won shouldn't surprise anyone, but it should disgust you that we are still there and negotiating in any way at this point, when the truth is the war in Ukraine wasn't for or to help Ukraine. It was a geopolitical strategy to try to have another war to then push again with technocracy and technology, a one world global governance system above all nations that I call the supranational system. Now, moving on, I do want to say Donald Trump came out, you know how against, I think the Patriot Act is unconstitutional, should be repealed. And I think we all have to be very honest with ourselves. When in the aftermath of the trauma-inducing manipulation of not just what happened on 9/11, but the coverage and everything that happened after, we were convinced to give up our privacy, to give up our Fourth Amendment, to give up everything that we could to protect the homeland from terrorists, i.e. the Patriot Act. But exactly what happened with the fraudulent Patriot Act is that instead of doing that, they essentially opened the doors right after 9/11 to Muslim Brotherhood and CARE and Somalia and all the different people. They brought them into our country. Obama and Holder come in shortly after, of course, at the behest of Harry Reid, and they turn the Patriot Act into a weapon against the people of the United States of America, and it has gone on steroids. And where we are now is we're finding out all this surveillance that was going on under the Arctic Frost, which was a unconstitutionally decided special counsel that really was just a wide sweep. There was no, as far as we can see, probable cause to go after the people that were private citizens, including Susie Wiles and Kash Patel and anyone who talked to them. But on the other side, they went after people in Senate and Congress. So we're supposed to trust this rogue intelligence agency, particularly CIA, who should not be doing anything on U.S. soil, but it appears they've been instrumental in everything since 2016 because apparently Donald Trump wanting to do detente and figure out a better way forward with Russia and Ukraine when he won in 2016 was unacceptable to the CIA operatives at Steady State and all of the lawfare people and everyone at West Exec Advisors and the Obama administration and everyone making billions of dollars, including the Biden family in Ukraine, as they had been planning to do exactly that, force Russia's hand and expand NATO and all the things that they do to launder money to themselves. So keep that in mind. But we are supposed to be okay with them extending the warrantless surveillance 702. 702 is American citizen. And essentially they say FISA doesn't work on the U.S. soil. That's a lie. We know that that's a lie from Horowitz's report, from Collier's report during the Spygate incident with Eric Holder and the IRS, and then Eric Holder and Obama and the NSA database, and then Perkins Coie, I don't know, having access to the NSA database. Anyway, we have found out that we cannot trust the intelligence community to honor the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or anything else. I frankly believe the Patriot Act should be repealed, and FISA 702 should never be allowed without a warrant and probable cause, and it's signed off on by a legit judge. The entire FISA situation is a disaster, but Donald Trump has put out a statement saying that even though FISA was used against him in the worst ways, he says right here, nobody understands this better than me, as I was a victim of the worst and most illegal abuse of FISA in our nation's history by radical left lunatics who lied to the FISA court to spy on my 2016 presidential campaign in an attempt to rig the election in favor of crooked Hillary Clinton. That is why, since the first day of my historic second term, my administration has worked tirelessly to ensure these reforms are being aggressively executed at every level of the executive branch to keep Americans safe while protecting their sacred civil liberties guaranteed by our great Constitution. The problem is that there is no evidence that that is being done. In fact, it doesn't seem to be, but we are in multiple wars and we have let in 20 million unvetted illegals, and many of them are tied to not just the Hezbollah and Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood and Iran, but also China and elsewhere. So he is saying FISA is an effective tool to keep Americans safe. That for that reason, I'm calling for an extension. But I think the American people should demand for this to be up to us. We have traded everything since 9/11 in terms of our privacy, and our the entire Fourth Amendment has been destroyed. So I am very against this, but we will see what happens. Rand Paul has been talking about it quite a bit too, and I agree with him, but take a listen to what Rand Paul says. I understand both sides, but I don't think that the CIA or the FBI can be trusted. They just can't. And when Donald Trump says they used it on me and my campaign, and then, of course, they used it on him and everyone that surrounded him in the 4 years of the auto pen, and Jack Smith's fraudulent investigation, not to mention the fraudulent investigation by Mueller and Weissman for 2 years, where 2,000 innocent people essentially were subpoenaed in a case that they knew was a fraud. The entire, so I just don't know why the American people should blindly trust the intelligence community to have access to all of our metadata on our own computers in our homes or anywhere else, or be able, as Jack Smith did, to get warrantless surveillance and then have a judge like Boasberg put an NDA on top of it so you don't even know you're being surveilled. Frankly, I think about 3 million Americans, from what I am being told and what I know, were surveilled over the Biden AutoPen administration. And I think the American people should know every single person that was surveilled by Jack Smith and his team, and by the January 6th fraudulent committee as well. The American people are the ones that run this country, and you're supposed to be working for us. If anyone involved in the January 6th committee or anyone working for it, like Mary McCord, or anyone involved in the lawfare of the 4 years of Joe Biden with Jack Smith and others, we should be notified. If we were spied on, every American citizen that was spied on by the either Obama or the Biden regime, I think deserves to know the truth. But take a listen to Rand Paul.
All right, Senator Paul, am I too harsh on the Congress?
No, and I think what's important for people to understand here is they think, oh, we're just going to spy on bad people, and I'm not a bad person, so I don't have to worry. But here's how these degrees of connection work. So I'm in public office, and I talk to news people like you, but I talk to reporters who may be talking to other reporters. So let's say you were an international correspondent for the New York Times, but you also talk to your reporter who's stationed in Gaza. The reporter in Gaza has a source in Hamas. And so now they want to know about Hamas. So you're 2 degrees away. They want to know about you, but you're talking to me, and all I am is a public official with opinions. I'm not connected to any kind of terrorist group, but all of a sudden I'm in the database. So they gather it with what I always call a less than constitutional way. It's a lower standard, and in some ways it's no standard. Then they say, what if John Smith, we think he might be using drugs or he might be a drug dealer. Let's search him in the FISA database. Well, all the information was gathered with a less than constitutional standard, so it shouldn't be legal. And so I really haven't been for letting them search any Americans in the 702 database. One of the reforms that has been proposed is a step in the right direction. It doesn't fix it because it would still, I think, be illegal, but a warrant where you said if you're going to search an American, you would at least have to have a warrant. My problem with the warrant being the end all is that the information was still gathered with a less than constitutional standard. So it really shouldn't be used on Americans at all.
Yes, exactly. And that's my feeling as well. I mean, somebody said to me, well, we need intelligence. We have intelligence. We had intelligence before the Patriot Act, and we had good intelligence before the Patriot Act. The American people have no privacy at all right now. We know that. And I'm telling you, I believe the 3 million people that have been spied on between the Biden and AutoPen administration and the Obama administration deserve to be notified if their rights were violated. And I know mine were multiple times. I also know that the government colluded to shut down and censor people. Now, something else is going on.
Can I share something? I wasn't feeling that great yesterday, and so I ended up watching this kind of really stupid movie. But the premise of the movie is with Chris, I think Helmsworth was the main character, and they had started, and he was a cop. They had started this AI judge thing, and the reason why they started an AI court is because there was so much, chaos in the streets, right? The homelessness and drugs, and they had no-go zones, and they needed something to start putting people away and taking care of them quickly. So they started this AI judge thing, and it was all AI, and you get put in a chair, and you have 2 hours to prove your innocence, or they kill you right there. And it ends up, he was being framed, and he ended up getting out. But the whole thing is they're pre-programming us for this AI pre-crime.
Right.
And
exactly.
And it has no. There's no humanity in it. There's no gut. It's strictly by the numbers, and we know that doesn't work. We see it in our own AI when we're trying to do our own work.
Yeah.
If you get crap input, you're going to get crap output.
Right. And I want to also say that yesterday, as you know, or probably, Google and Facebook were held accountable for their addictive algorithms that they apparently, it sounds a little crazy town, but I tell you, MK Ultra never ended, and they feel, InQtel and DARPA really are behind Facebook and all the rest of it. It's a spy operation, if you ask me, and always was. But in the meantime, it looks like Meta is going to no longer allow encryption on their direct messages on Instagram. And I don't think people know, but it's just another way that big tech and the government are colluding still, if you ask me. But at the same time, we did get information that has been declassified that Joe Biden, I call him Biden's administration, because we don't know who really ran it. We know that 10 people were suggested to be investigated running the Autopan, but we have seen nothing there. But I just want people to understand, slowly but surely, we are turning into a you will own nothing and be happy. And I'm just going to play this. I really like this guy, but listen to what he has to say about Instagram, and beware, because it's also going to happen at all of Meta. So Facebook and Instagram, your messages will no longer be private. Take a listen.
Instagram just said they are reading your messages and they will continue to do so. Okay, they said it in a nicer way. End-to-end encrypted messaging on Instagram will no longer be supported after May 8th, 2026. Okay, let me explain. You don't have privacy with me. I can read everything you send and receive on my platform. But I hear you. That's unacceptable. In the age of end-to-end encryption on basically all messaging tools, I should not be able to read your private messages. That's why I'm stepping up. I have now added end-to-end encryption on my platform as an option very hard to find and activate. And it keeps all of your messages private, so I can't read them. But it's an option and it's very hard to find and activate. See, I care about your privacy. That's why I made it very hard to find and activate. But what is that? I'm looking at the data, and none of you care about your own privacy because you haven't turned on the option, which is very hard to find and activate. And I could have turned it on by default, but I chose not to. But you're not using that.
And watch out, kids, because
So he
going full spying on Meta across the board.
So what he's saying is that because people aren't using it, they're using it as a predicate to get rid of it.
No, but basically that you don't care because you've never checked it off. It's just be careful. Be careful. Look, the Patriot Act should be rescinded. And 3 million people apparently that have been spied on by our government and big tech as a team should be notified. And I also believe that most of the people, including myself, that were kicked off of, banned, censored in collaboration between the White House of Joe Biden and big tech should be able to sue. And sue probably a class action lawsuit. Anyone that got kicked off of the platform. Donald Trump had a, I think, $24 million settlement with YouTube about him being kicked off of YouTube. Well, I was, and a lot of other people were. So, what about us? In the meantime, we have to pay attention to something that's going on. I know a lot of people are being distracted, but I am telling you right now that Larry Fink is running the World Economic Forum as he is still the CEO of BlackRock. And what is happening is they are going very fast to something called tokenization of assets of everything on the planet. And not anyone is really reporting this. A few people are. I know Unlimited Hangout, of course, has reported this and some other people. But I think the American people should have to decide this. Not Larry Fink, not the World Economic Forum, not the International Banking Cartel, not their global public-private partners, and not the supranational architecture that is running our country from above. So first and foremost, Larry Fink put out his world. Now, the problem with Larry Fink is that not only is he the CEO of BlackRock, which apparently is running the world to some extent in tandem with Palantir, but also he is running the Agenda 2030, Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution at the World Economic Forum. So he has two positions of power in the supranational and the international banking cartel. He put out his memo to his shareholders. Take a look.
I write this letter each year after hundreds of conversations with clients and leaders around the world. And lately, there's a common theme. People feel like the world is changing faster than they can process. Countries are investing more at home, and artificial intelligence is advancing at an extraordinary pace. And capital is moving differently. At the same time, enormous value is being created in the capital markets. But not everyone feels connected to that growth. If more prosperity is being generated in markets, then more people need the opportunity to participate in them. That's what this letter is all about. Expanding long-term ownership through stronger retirement systems,
Right.
earlier wealth building, and modernizing markets that make investing more accessible and more possible. At its best, long-term investing links your future to your country's future. When that connection is strong, economies are stronger too.
Okay, so Larry Fink is now pushing something called tokenization. We need to understand exactly what tokenization is, and we need to be the ones to decide if we would like to participate in a full track and trace surveillance system that is run by the banks. Essentially, tokenization that he is pushing and BlackRock is pushing and the world is pushing and Wall Street is pushing and the international banking cartel, tokenization converts ownership into digital tokens. Smart contracts automate enforcement of rules via code. Algorithms. These systems can operate across finance, property, and identity. And this is the World Economic Forum, Great Reset, digital wallet, global public infrastructure I have been warning about since I started speaking, that I got kicked off of platforms for talking about, that I've given speeches on, many other people have. We've had Catherine Austin Fitz and Reggie Littlejohn and Dr. Warner and many, many people warning about CBDCs. Well, hello. This is a whole different level of that. So this includes tokenization, as Larry Fink is explaining it, or from what I can see, is an identity layer that determines who can participate. A money layer controls issuance and usage of funds. An asset layer governs ownership and transfer of assets. A platform layer controls user access and interaction. And a settlement layer records transactions on a ledger. What does this mean? That nothing you do ever again will be private, A, and you will own nothing and be happy. Because it has identity gatekeepers, programmable money restrictions, platform access control, asset permissioning, and governance and upgrade authority, which includes smart contracts. What are smart contracts? They are ways in which if you violate your smart contract, your money will get turned off or it'll have an expiration date. The U.S. model, basically they're pitching, Larry Fink's pitching, is to decentralize front-end regulated intermediaries and private sector dominance. Wall Street controlling and viewing and overseeing all of our money transactions on a blockchain ledger that they are on top of. China, on the other hand, already has this. It's a technate. China's a total technocracy. We are heading there if we don't get up and stand up and say, no, we have a Fourth Amendment, we have a Constitution, a Bill of Rights, and individual liberty and personal sovereignty and autodetermination. And the banks of Wall Street have no business seeing anything of mine, not my transactions or anything else. And they already do in a lot of ways, but this is a whole nother level of own nothing and be happy. So China, it's a centralized state-controlled tokenization or digital currency system with integrated identity and finance that work together with social contracts, also known as social credit scores. Both allow control. The difference is visibility and structure and who is in control of it. Again, the implications here are the First Amendment, potential restrictions on economic association and expression via financial controls by private entities. Fourth Amendment, surveillance concerns from tracking transactions and documents and contracts. Fifth Amendment, due process and takings clause if assets are frozen or restricted. 14th Amendment, equal protection issues if access is unevenly enforced. 10th Amendment, federal versus state control over financial systems. The shift is from absolute ownership to conditional access. It's from private property to owning a piece of property. In that private property, assets may be frozen or restricted when you look through the documents that they've put out there. Ownership is tied to compliance with system rules. It increases visibility into all of your transactions, behavioral tracking possible. If, Donald Trump says they spied on me, but I'm a good guy and there's good people in there now. Well, there might not be again. Again, if the midterms are not handled properly and we have a fair election, the Democrat Socialists of America and CARE and Muslim Brotherhood will be running the Democratic Party. The Democrat Socialists of America are not Democrats, but they run as Democrats, and most American citizens have no idea. They're just checking the D's because they hate Trump, but They're Marxist revolutionaries. It's a global operation, the Democrat Socialists of America. It's all over the world. It is international revolutionary Marxist, essentially communism, where a very few people have power and everyone else has nothing and is controlled. So keep that in mind. If the pendulum swings and Trump and team don't do anything to make sure that the 2026 elections are as fair as possible, well, then the Democrats slip in there with their illegal votes and their dead people. And the next thing you know, they control the tokenization. They control the surveillance. They control all of that. And in the real world, we have to realize mandatory digital identity is tied to this. Marsha Blackburn just put in a bill for AI and governance and all kinds of stuff. And what's in there, of course, is age verification for children under a certain age. Well, then that means everyone has to have age verification that ends anonymity online. And I don't think the American people want that. Also, tokenized asset regulations by the SEC and other agencies after all of the criminality that we've watched from the SEC and other agencies, let alone the Epstein files, no one's getting in trouble for that, it seems. And then we're going to hand all of this to those same people that worked in and around facilitating Epstein for decades, like JP Morgan Chase and HSBC and the SEC and all these people that were supposed to be overseeing criminality in the banking sector will now be watching us. Rob, any thoughts on that at this point before I go forward?
Well, it makes precious metals seem a lot more exciting to me, which continue to be on sale. So I would definitely check that out. The reality is that in the beginning, it was really the libertarians that were really excited about crypto, and there was a great deal of excitement about the fact of a decentralized, private, digital money, and even digital assets, because they're really it's called friction. When you have a transaction, you want to have as little friction as possible, and friction is time, cost, complexity of the transaction. So if you can eliminate a lot of that friction in a transaction, and the digital transactions do that, then. But the problem is, the problem is that what's happening is it's getting consumed by those that seek control, and it's not being kept in that that safe way.
Well, those that seek control are not the American government. That's the bigger problem, is that it is a supranational architecture that runs the international banking cartel, runs endless wars for money to justify the money disappearing into NATO, runs black ops all over the world to trillions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money missing. And now we're going to hand those people the ability to track, surveil, and our money. I mean, because what they're talking about is having the banks, Wall Street, run this project, the tokenization. Let's listen to Dr. St. Onge. I love this guy. I've reached out to him. He's great. Take a listen. He explains things monetarily that I can't. And Rob's good too, but I really like how he explains this here, because there have been a lot of poison pills. Donald Trump signed a thing that we would not have a central bank digital currency. But take a listen to what he has to say.
Republicans in Congress are pushing a central bank digital currency, once again disguised as a ban, so they can surveil and control every dollar you spend. Will it be the Republicans who make you eat the bugs? Republicans in Congress are currently pushing a housing bill that does some useful things to red tape zoning and mortgage rates, while doing some shady things. This is Congress, remember? Like letting banks print money they don't have and handing free money to people with bad credit, which didn't work in 2008. But hidden deep in the bowels is a little gem that effectively greenlights a central bank digital currency, CBDC, so long as Wall Street gets a piece of the action. So a CBDC is a kind of government-run crypto token that would replace the dollar with a centralized database that lets bureaucrats see and report every dollar you spend, and lets them block anything they don't like. It's a stablecoin, but a government stablecoin. Now, this already happens in the banking system. Banks send the government transaction reports anytime you move 10 grand, and so-called suspicious activity reports if you do anything weird, both in blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment, requiring probable cause for government spying. Meanwhile, banks can and do control your money. Remember the Canadian trucker protests that forced banks to freeze protesters' accounts using powers we also have thanks to the Patriot Act. The difference is a CBDC does this to all of your dollars, not just your bank account. There is no escape unless you're paying the mortgage and groceries in gold or perhaps Bitcoin. China naturally is the world leader in CBDCs. It's bragged about the fact it can freeze any spending. It even allows negative interest rates where your money literally loses 1% a month unless you spend it, which is handy to force more spending in time for the next election. Aside from China, another 71 countries are building CBDCs or running pilots. Now, the Federal Reserve was running a pilot, but Trump ended that with an executive order as soon as he took office. Enter the housing bill, which already turned into a vehicle to cripple private stablecoins. I talked about that yesterday. But it also adds a CBDC ban that actually promotes a CBDC. The reason is there's two kinds of CBDCs. A retail CBDC, where the Fed issues tokens to the public, meaning you replace your bank with a bank account at the Fed, and a wholesale CBDC where the Fed issues tokens only to banks. The housing bill only bans the retail CBDC. It allows wholesale. This is a problem because retail terrifies Wall Street because millions of people would pull out their money and park it at the Fed because there's zero risk at the Fed. It cannot go bust. It is a giant counterfeiting machine. Wholesale, on the other hand, deals banks in. They can keep fleecing you just with a new backdoor for the bureaucrats. That flips the enormous Wall Street lobbying machine from anti-CBDC to pro-CBDC. Now, wholesale promoters promise it will never, ever be used for surveillance, but once it's built, they can flick a switch using any excuse, and going by the Patriot Act, they will be very creative about the excuses. So it's next brought to you by Trust Capital, 80.
Okay, folks. So I think that explained it. So, Rob, you want to comment on what he just said?
Yeah, so Trump says there's no CBDC, central bank, so that's the central bank digital currency. And what they signed in, and so that what he's saying is that there's a Fed central currency, which is wholesale, and then there's the banks, which are retail. So in effect, it's decentralized with the banks. And what he's saying is that, just like they have a suspicious activity report, which is a Fourth Amendment issue, because they're not supposed to report, because if you do a transaction above a certain amount, they report that, right? And why is it suspicious? Because it's above a certain amount. There's no, predicate for crime there. So, it's a slippery slope. If we had good leadership, then, I know that. That's the point. The point is that, all of this depends on good leadership. And that goes back to the core, element of what we're trying to fight all the time is that, there's corruption and control, within all the systems, needs to get rooted out. We need to get good people in positions that will help protect, the people. So, I understand that there's a lot of money, and pretty much everyone who deals in this stuff is moving toward that, and so much investment. It's very hard to say that it's not going to happen.
Well, the American people should have a say,
but we should have,
and we don't.
The guardrails.
Patriot Act.
I understand that, but we need to push for those guardrails.
Where
we should not
held accountable since the murder of JFK in the intelligence community for all of the violations, let alone what happened with Snowden. We saw that. Now it's gone on steroids. The Patriot Act has been a disaster for this country and freedom and privacy. And this is not supposed to happen here. But Larry Fink is on it. He's on it. So listen, please let me just play this.
Go ahead.
When we bought BGI in 2009, we were ridiculed by most of the financial community for saying you cannot marry the culture of an active investor, who we were, and a passive culture. And we said, why? Our clients use both products. Our job is to be agnostic to our clients, to work with our clients, and to provide a whole portfolio solution. But over time, more and more clients started to think about, how do I want to get an exposure? Do I want an exposure in this area or this product? And I could do that through actively investing in ETFs. In 2012, we said, ETFs are going to be the new engine for fixed income. And boy, did that get a lot of ridicule by many people in the business community. And today, the fixed income markets are totally imbued by ETFs. And so at BlackRock, when we bought BGI, we had $290 billion of ETFs. Today we have $3.5 trillion. And then this week alone, just yesterday, we launched the iShares Bitcoin ETF. And so I would say to you, if we could ETF a Bitcoin, imagine what we could do with all financial instruments. And so what we announced in our architectural change, iShares was this business division in itself. And we thought that's too exclusive. We needed to include the ethos, the philosophy, the spirituality of what iShares can provide in everything we do at BlackRock. Because we believe we're just halfway there in the ETF revolution.
Okay, this is about tokenization. And again, why does Larry Fink get to control financial policy in the United States of America, especially when he's talking about ETFs? And a lot of this has to do with surveillance and identity and all of it being tied together, just like he says when he's over wearing his Davos hat. This is Agenda 2030. This is getting everyone on the blockchain identified, full track and trace surveillance from birth to death, essentially. And it's all tying in. And, this also goes along with they're going to push. They can't have this kind of tokenization without having identity, digital wallet, which is the most important thing. And here's, of course, the proponent. Now, remember, the global public infrastructure is already built, and it's interoperable. And the United States right now, frankly, is the only thing in its way of a full, total Agenda 2030 track and trace surveillance model that is all on the blockchain, and we have zero privacy. But they also want to tokenize nature. They want everything that they did with carbon, they now want to do with water and land and everything that they can. This is literally putting a technocratic control grid above everything that you do. Take a listen to Bill Gates. He's one of the people behind funding the global public infrastructure and really pushing for this forward march towards tokenization, which is essentially you will own nothing and be happy. Take a listen.
Country struggling to find that boundary. The U.S. is a tough one because, we have the notion of the First Amendment. And so what are the exceptions, like yelling fire in a theater? And because you're anonymous online, it can be worse. I do think over time, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want. And so the idea of provenance, who sent me this email, was that really them? We're going to have systems and behaviors that we're more aware of. Okay, who says that? Who created this? Every country struggling.
And again, I just, all of this seems very un-American to me. And then I'm going to just play this last clip of Larry Fink, because I firmly believe that not just BlackRock, but also Palantir, who are going into lots of deals with the DOD and with the Trump administration and with law enforcement, and some of these other groups, including some of the global multinational corporations, are all working together under the guise of we are going to achieve the full control, surveillance, and all of that, of everything, every asset, every natural resource, every human being. This is technocracy, folks. But the scary part is, take a listen to, when I say supranational infrastructure or global public-private partnership or international banking cartel, this is what I'm talking about. So again, all right, this is the same guy. This is the same guy that is running the World Economic Forum and BlackRock, which is a lot of our pensions in America. And apparently he is above every government. Take a listen to what he has to say here.
Access that you have, which I think is almost unique.
I do believe, because of the business model of who and what we are, our reach, we're heavily involved in most countries' retirement, whether it's in Mexico, we're the largest third non-Mexican, non-Afore retirement manager. We're the largest retirement manager, non-Japanese, in Japan. We're the largest retirement manager in the UK, including the domestics. And so having that position, it's all about long-term issues, but it's things that you can't replicate because it's based on years of relationships. and trust, and whether it is. And I do go out of my way when there's somebody who's new in their role, a new prime minister. I will spend time. Generally, what I try to do is spend time before they win, and meet the candidates.
Oh, really?
So whether it's in Mexico, spending time with Claudia before she won, or spending time with Keir Starmer. It's just spending time with them and just saying, you have access to whatever information you need.
I wonder where they go. Some island or something. That would be fun. Maybe they have a little.
No, you heard him, right? He spends with people before they win. That's interesting. Now, another billionaire that has a lot of power in this country is sitting here talking to Larry Fink, and I think we should listen to what he has to say. Sounds a lot like Noah Harari and digital surveillance that he talked about. Take a listen to Ken Griffin from Citadel and Larry Fink this week.
The area of recklessness is the spending of governments around the world, who are all, with little exception, all spending well beyond their means. That's the recklessness of this moment in history. This is not a parallel to the 1920s in terms of the recklessness of the private capital markets. It's a story of the recklessness of government spending. Within the private sector, there's a huge question as to where AI will take us. And I was carefully taking notes and listening to what Larry has to say, or to what Madame Lagarde has to say, because this is one of the big issues of our moment. Will AI create the productivity acceleration that is honestly that's hoped for in Washington and in the halls of government around the world as a way to overcome the profligate spending that we're currently engaged in? Like the world needs a savior. And the hope is that AI is the savior that we need for productivity.
I think God and Jesus would do much better, quite frankly.
They don't look at us like we're people. This has been going on for decades, unabated. They look at us like we are problems they have to solve, and anything that they need to do it is okay. This is the old Ben Franklin, those that give up liberty for security deserve neither. Now, I just want to remind you, when hearing all of that, and then we'll jump forward, of what Noah Harari said not too long ago. Now, he's the main... he's called the prophet, I guess, at Davos. He's the main person who's been pushing technocracy and not pushing it, but explaining it, and transhumanism, and no need for God, and no need for religion, that humans are hackable animals.
I'm going to send him a case of a testosterone booster from Neutronics.
You should. Okay, so now that you saw that what they're talking about this week about tokenization and everyone needing a digital ID and no privacy anymore in your transactions or online, take a listen to what Harari said about this a couple years ago. And they're way, way advanced now. This is Agenda 2030 in different pieces. Take a listen.
Basically, an expansion of money, or a new kind of money. When you think about traditional money, gold coins, dollars, even bitcoins, they give value only to specific parts of human reality. Right. Some things you do, like you work, you gain money, you want to buy airline ticket, you pay money, but other things, you go visit your friends, you go visit your grandmother, even you throw trash in the street. Mm-hmm. This is no monetary value. The idea of the social credit is to monetize everything. To give value to every single thing you do in life. And this is your score. Mm-hmm. So even things that traditionally were not about money, they're about reputation or status. Suddenly you get precise points for them. And also anything you want to do, you need to use your social credit for it. So again, it has positive potential in some regards. Mm-hmm. It could create the most totalitarian, systems in history, where anything you do impacts your ability to get a job, to gain a loan, to travel. And in a way, you see this not only in China, you see it all over the world, also in the US. This because it's a function of surveillance. That traditionally, only some areas of life were monitored and surveyed. And even in dictatorships, there was privacy. If you live in the Soviet Union, so the KGB can't follow you around all the time. They just don't have enough agents.
Right. They tried,
And
but they
they try, but you have 200 million Soviet citizens. They don't have 200 million agents. Now you can monitor everybody all the time. You don't need human agents or analysts. You have the computers, smartphones, cameras, drones, microphones everywhere, and you have the AIs analyzing all the ocean of information. So this creates the potential for total surveillance. And it can take the form of the social credit system.
And there you have it, folks. So put all those pieces together. I don't really think anyone is doing a very good job, except for the professor. Really, I mean, there's some other people too, but really getting to my audience and you getting to your family members and your local community and you can do stuff in your states. Okay, you can get involved, but if we don't, then this is going to come and we're going to wake up one day in a total surveillance panopticon. And I've been telling you that is Agenda 2030. Barack Obama signed us onto it in 2015. There have been trillions of dollars spent building the ledger technology, the biometric technology, the online technology, the smart city, Internet of Body, Internet of Things. So this is not a little thing. And I know a lot of people aren't really paying attention to it, but I really think that the American people need to decide if the future we want is basically the unconstitutional Patriot Act on steroids run by AI, where there's nobody held accountable and no oversight. And because once AI takes over and everything is tokenized and all your bank accounts, every time you're online, every time you go anywhere is watched, tracked, traced, and surveilled as per Agenda 2030's goals, I mean, we don't really have America anymore. What we're fighting for is the independence of the United States of America to continue on a path after 250 years of a constitutional republic where the people are the last say, where consent of the governed matters, where privacy should be reclaimed, not going totally the other direction towards never ever coming back. So, I mean, while we're talking about that,
hey, Mel, do you want to talk a little bit about that Rumble read?
Yeah.
Because if some of you out there might have dipped your toe or more so into Bitcoin or other crypto stuff, and it isn't inherently evil, but we certainly need to learn about it in order to be articulate about it. And one of the ways we pay our bills is through Rumble Reads, and Rumble Wallet is a platform that is offering kind of an on-ramp to getting educated and involved in some of this stuff.
Yeah, I would go to wallet.rumble.com and look into that because, as we know, they can freeze your accounts now. They can look at everything you do now. They I don't know how we could possibly trust the CIA, FBI, or DOJ after the last 8 years to have full ability to track, trace, and surveil every aspect of our lives. But that's what's going on. And big banks and financial institutions are getting more and more control. And it looks like, from what Larry Fink's saying, and watching all the players on the global international banking cartel stage, they feel just fine. While we're fighting amongst ourselves, while we're tearing apart our country, while we're allowing the Muslim Brotherhood and the revolutionary Marxists to take over our nation and brainwash our children and all of that, they're going straight ahead to Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, and you'll own nothing and be happy. So you got to find out options for you. And I didn't know much about it, but I learned a lot when I went to Rumble Wallet. You can go to the QR code and, you can look into digital assets, Tether Gold, Bitcoin, learn about it. This is a no permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And as for me, I am still banned for life since 2020 on YouTube. And if it was not for Rumble, I would not be here. So they have allowed me to be free and uncensored. Certainly when the Biden regime teamed up with big tech to shut down me and everyone else, Nobody stopped that, but Rumble gave me a place to find some solace. So go down and download Rumble Wallet right now and take a look or look into it. Go to wallet.rumble.com. We need to find decentralized ways. We need to find parallel things we can do. But at the same time, most of all, we need to be honest and educate ourselves and look at what is happening above our country in the supranational, international banking / global public-private partnership that is above all nations right now. And, and it appears to me that on that ledge above us are not just BlackRock, but like I said, huge global surveillance architecture that's already built. The global public infrastructure, Palantir, Oracle, all the satellites, it's going pretty fast if we're not going to pay attention. Now, in the meantime, talking about going pretty fast, Palantir apparently is building a database. Peter Thiel, of course, is the co-founder, and Alex Karp, both members of Bilderberg, and a lot of other things. In fact, I think Peter Thiel right now is on some kind of tour in Europe talking about the Antichrist, which is weird. In the meantime, Trump signed an executive order demanding that agencies eliminate information silos, which, of course, I've been talking about the information silos, and that's how they get away with a lot of stuff, not to mention the cover-up operation known as the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. But in the meantime, now it looks like what is going on, what is happening is that in the Stopping Waste, Fraud, and Abuse by Eliminating Information Silos, it presents mass data consolidation as a fix, removing unnecessary barriers to federal employees accessing government data, will help eliminate bureaucratic duplication. Okay. At the same time, it also says it gives designated federal officials sweeping access to all unclassified agency records, software systems, and data across departments. Well, that has been happening whether it was allowed or not, and that has been happening in my estimation, and I believe we should have an answer about this, to about 3 million American citizens since Obama turned the Patriot Act and the National Security Division and the FBI under Comey and Mueller and the CIA under Brennan into a weapon against ideologically unaligned American citizens. So keep that in mind. If the Democrat Socialist and the Muslim Brotherhood take over the Democratic Party and get back in power, what does that mean? It orders agencies to remove internal sharing restrictions within 30 days and grants the federal government unfettered access to state-level data programs, even if stored in third-party databases. It overrides previous executive orders and suspends regulatory safeguards that might slow it down. I mean, there's many complex problems here, but if the American people are not aware of them and thinking about them and thinking about what that means for them, for their future, for their family, for the country, then this is all going to be done without a say. And that's the scary part, because this blueprint that has come out essentially is a centralized full surveillance system in the United States of America run by big tech and banks, let alone government agencies that, in my opinion, have lost the trust of the people and don't deserve that. There are many options for intelligence, including military intelligence, which is still separate from the main government. So I don't know. In the meantime, we have the lunatics. I'm telling you, they are still going full steam ahead with Agenda 2030. The Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, while they are causing and paying for wreaking havoc all over the world. Every region of the world right now has a war. And in America, the war is inside our country to divide and destroy us from within. But we know the war in Iran, the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel, the war that they're trying to spin up, I think, over there in Taiwan. This is all paid for on both sides by the international banking cartel. And they, of course, control the international, now very obviously international military industrial complex that has looted and laundered trillions of U.S. taxpayer dollars into black holes known as the Cold War, the War on Terror, and the globalist operation to save the planet. Well, guess what? The UN is still full steam ahead, folks. Take a listen. This is the communist that runs the United Nations speaking that they need more money because the transition is not going fast enough. The transition is truly to Agenda 2030, full track and trace surveillance of all, not just humans, but nature, natural resources, everything on this planet, everything in cyberspace, everything online. They want full access. And this is the global public-private partnership and international banking cartel that runs the UN. And again, they all have, including the banks, on the international architecture level, immunity. So take a listen. This is Gutierrez having a breakdown about the money that they need because Donald Trump is pulling out of their fraudulent money laundering climate programs.
In the edge of war, climate stress is also exposing another truth. Our addiction to fossil fuels is destabilizing both the climate and global security. Now more than ever, we must accelerate the just transition to renewable energy. Renewables deliver climate security, energy security, and national security. And in the edge of war,
Okay, so he's still going down his path. Well, finally, we have a representative that understands what is really going on at the UN, as I've told you, and as the great Alex Newman has laid out many, many times. The United Nations and the World Health Organization and all of them are essentially branches of the Chinese Communist Party. But take a listen. Thank you, Harriet Hagman, for coming out and calling it like it is after the UN and the World Health Organization and all of the international NGOs that launder our money as well cried because Donald Trump is cutting off the funnel of money, including USAID, but particularly to the black hole that is the United Nations and the World Bank. Take a listen.
Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is waging a multilateral influence operation with the intent to undermine the U.S. as a world power while reorienting the global system in its favor. In order to achieve these ends, the CCP is seeking to gain legitimacy inside the UN through its specialized agencies. The CCP is targeting elections for leadership positions within these specialized agencies and then seeking to shift the agency's policies in the CCP's favor. Simultaneously, the party is working to stack the rank and file employees of the specialized agencies with Chinese nationals and party-affiliated individuals. A CCP bureaucrat, Qu Dongyu, leads the Food and Agriculture Organization, and over the last 15 years, China has led the World Health Organization, UN Industrial Development Organization, International Civil and Aviation Organization, and International Telecommunications Union. The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is waging a multilateral influence operation.
Okay, so what we're saying here is that, again, so we have the whole Agenda 2030 crew. Don't forget, in 2019, the World Economic Forum, which is now run by Larry Fink, and the United Nations, they had a compact that they were going to unite in 2019 to make sure that they achieve Agenda 2030 by 2030. I fully believe that the war on the continent of Europe was a precursor to forcing everyone in under the guise of reconstruction, safety, and security, and ending endless wars, which have been nothing but nonstop since the UN was established to do such a thing. But this time it would be totalitarian, technocratic, full control above governments. It's already working, and as I said, the CCP is very involved. Thank God, the AfD leader has a lead in Germany, but I will let you hear what she has to say about not just the war in Ukraine, but frankly, what is going on all over the world, and kind of how that is affecting all of us. Particularly, she's very upset about the UN and everyone backing the continuation of the Ukraine war. There was no end goal. They're talking about the end goal in Iran. Well, ending terrorism, having the Strait of Hormuz not be threatened. There's a million reasons. But the war in Ukraine is still inexplicable to anyone, and 2 million people have died, and all of Ukraine has been sold off essentially to multinational corporations. But take a listen to what Alice Weidel had to say.
They pile up debt upon debt upon debt and ship countless billions to one of the most corrupt regimes on earth, Ukraine, to prolong a war that is not ours. It's not ours. They stand with Kiev, even when the regime blackmails, threatens, and physically attacks vital infrastructure inside EU member states.
Okay, so that's her take on that, and I'd like to also play the great Alex Newman explaining to you exactly why we, the people of the United States, are standing in the way of the full implementation of Agenda 2030 and the United Nations World Economic Forum plans for global governance, which they've been trying to do since the League of Nations. So I think it's really important. I hope that this wasn't too much. There's a lot of news going on, but I'm very concerned with what is going on, the push to extending surveillance from where it is after a decade of watching it be abused by our government against we the people. But all of these things, let alone the United Nations and World Health Organization. If you did not know, Natalie Winters has a great article out. The World Health Organization, even though we pulled out, and Argentina has as well, they are doing simulations right now, very similar to Event 201 for a nuclear attack. So, these people are desperate to keep their supranational post-World War II architecture in place. It's trillions of dollars they've made and disappeared. Black ops all over the world, regime change all over the world, endless wars for profit, endless, arms races. It's not going to stop unless we decide that there's a better way forward, and we better think about it. But here, Alex Newman explains exactly what the plan is for Agenda 2030, and all of the pieces are coming together between what I showed you with BlackRock, with Citadel, with Harari, with all of that. Take a listen.
To me about the 50 and 5 plan.
So the UN has partnered with Bill Gates on this, what they call digital public infrastructure. It's a very fancy term. And I think the simplest way to understand it is they're building a giant digital gulag for all of humanity. So the UN Development Program has officially launched this. It was officially launched at the end of last year, where they're going to get 50 governments, they call them countries, but really they mean governments, to impose at least some major element of this digital public infrastructure on their population within 5 years. So 2028.
Passports.
Digital IDs, and those are already emerging. In fact, many states are developing these. I just went through the airport yesterday. You can scan your digital ID QR code, right? So that's happening.
And that's really one of the main reasons for the COVID
absolutely
nonsense.
The architecture that was laid down is the backbone of this global control grid that they're building. So then you've got the central bank digital currencies, which are already being unveiled. Right? They've already been released. The World Economic Forum just said a few days ago, 98% of the governments and central banks in the world are working on these CBDCs. Once they're fully operational, I guarantee you they're going to start waging war on cash much more openly. They'll say it's a tool for terrorists and pimps and every nasty thing, tax cheats, everything you can think of. Then you've got the payment processing systems, and you've also got, we just had the head of the World Health Organization talk about this recently, the digital health certificates, the digital vaccine passports. They're taking what the EU developed during the COVID, which, by the way, the European Commission was promoting vaccine passports in May of 2019, long before anybody ever heard of COVID or anything like that. So they're taking all of this together, and they are using it to build a control system that will not just be able to surveil and monitor everything you do on an unprecedented scale. When you combine it with AI, the ability to make sense of all this data, it's just mind-blowing, but also to manipulate what you do. And so they're talking about this, again, pretty openly. If you look at the World Economic Forum meetings, they talk about the benefits of programmable central bank digital currency, where they will be able to say who can buy what, when, under what conditions. And then the Bank for International Settlements, Carol Quigley, to go back to him for a moment, Bill Clinton's mentor, the guy who really exposed this global agenda to create a one world system, he said the apex of the system was going to be the Bank for International Settlements. This is an institution that's almost entirely unknown to Americans. And
not after my book comes out. My book's about as you know, it starts at the Bank of International Settlements and unravels everything after that. But Alex Newman is the best of the best, in my opinion, of explaining that. And that is exactly what happened. Now, before we go today, speaking of the World Health Organization and vaccine passports and all of this in connection to the pandemic having something to not only do with getting rid of Trump and anyone else they wanted around the world and destroying the middle class and putting power into the hands of the global public-private partnership and international banking cartel, more than ever, really, really elevating them. We just found out this is really quite awful. And I think if we don't see some justice when it comes to the pandemic and COVID and the vaccine and everything, I just don't know how we can. And then we're supposed to trust them with warrantless surveillance for American citizens. And after everything we've seen, nobody being held accountable. Well, yesterday, This is pretty awful, guys. A Senate investigation finds federal officials buried COVID-19 vaccine stroke risk information from the public while they were pushing it as mandatory. Now, let's be very clear. The Pfizer vaccine was held until Joe Biden took office on purpose. They didn't want Trump to look like he came up with the vaccine. So warp speed and all that you're talking about, it's still very confusing. But it wasn't until Pfizer then came out and lied to the world, knowingly lied, saying that the vaccine would prevent spread, was safe and effective, and essentially they hid all side effects from the American people. Now, health officials detected a significant ischemic stroke signal in seniors, then pushed booster uptake anyway and downplayed the risk internally and told the public no change was needed. My father had 4 friends, essentially in their 80s, die within, if not days, weeks of the, I believe, second shot and a booster. So now we know right here, if you look at my screen, that this just came out, that based on the investigation review of Department of Health and Human Services Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation, essentially has uncovered evidence that appears to show yet another instance of the Biden administration failure to take immediate action to warn the public about a serious COVID-19 vaccine adverse event. Apparently, on August the 31st, 2022, the FDA authorized Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 bivalent booster. By late October 2022, HHS reported that approximately 1.4 million people, 14.4 million people 12 years and older had received the booster. In November 2022, federal health officials became aware of a statistically significant safety signal for stroke among individuals aged 65 and older following administration of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 booster. Okay, this is it's not unbelievable, but take a listen to Ron Johnson. He's been on this from the start. Dr. Fauci and all his friends have to be held accountable. I can't believe that this is not happening. There's so much evidence that this was a pandemic, that the vaccine was neither safe nor effective, and we were lied to on a mass scale, and then making it mandatory, and then the whole $11 billion the Biden administration put into pushing it through late night comedy, through sports, through entertainment, through all of that. Everything was, I believe, to collapse everything, get everyone on the digital infrastructure under the guise of vaccines and all of that. But take a listen to Ron Johnson. This is yesterday.
There's a headline, news-breaking item right there. But the most important part of what we're revealing in this letter to Bobby Kennedy is that the CDC, FDA also were fully aware of the phenomenon of masking in their empirical Bayesian analysis. Now, from my standpoint, I was concerned back in October talking to Mike Eden about these injections. But early on in March and April, because I was concerned, I was following VAERS. VAERS was screaming at us. If we were looking at the thousands of deaths, early on, 46% of those deaths were occurring on the day of vaccination in 1 or 2 days. We're up to almost 39,000 deaths. 24% of those deaths occurred on the day of vaccination or within 1 or 2 days. Now, this has been available month by month by month since about March, April of 2021, and the federal officials are still not acknowledging it. Instead, they go to these, PRR, the proportional reporting ratios, or a more sophisticated, when PRRs were showing safety signals, they say, oh, we're not using those. We're using empirical Bayesian analysis. They set the trigger.
Okay, folks. So remember, it's all connected. Build back better. You will own nothing and be happy. The White House during the Biden administration edited federal health officials' messaging on stroke after COVID-19 vaccination. They have newly released records that actually show them doing it. If you look at my screen right now, hello, this is actually what came out at that time, and you can see right here. The editing changes from the Biden White House to the officials at the time. You can take it down. Thanks. So at the same time, I just want everyone to be very clear that Ron Johnson released 2,000 pages of HHS records online for you to showing the Biden administration failure to immediately warn the public about serious safety concerns linked to the Pfizer COVID-19 booster, the first booster that they discovered as early as November 2022. And instead, they continued to push it, kicked people out of their government jobs, out of the military. People couldn't go to college. People couldn't. You couldn't get in New York, if you didn't get your vaccine, you couldn't get your haircut, you couldn't go to the gym, you couldn't go anywhere. And they knew this. So below, January 2023, HHS communication plan with edits from Biden officials downplaying the significance of stroke after the vaccine booster. And also, Rand Paul's out there saying it's been 985 days. I referred Dr. Fauci to then AG Merrick Garland 672 days ago. I referred him again 254 days ago. I sent my referral for charges against Anthony Fauci to Pam Bondi. Still no response from the DOJ. So again, it's going to be up to us. We, the people of the United States, are the only answer. And I will leave you with this one clip. This is the one deposition of Fauci. And now we found so much evidence since that not only is he lying, but he doesn't really care what happened. He was going to make sure that Donald Trump would be laughed at for hydroxychloroquine, which would have saved lives. He called ivermectin a magical mystery fake cure, totally would have saved lives. I got kicked off for life from YouTube with Dr. Zelenko for talking about zinc and quercetin and vitamin D. We have friends that were sued for recommending vitamin D, doctors that had their licenses taken away for recommending other things. Take a listen to Dr. Fauci in a deposition in 22.
I have no recollection. I'm sorry, would you repeat the question? What's the question again? I'm not sure. I think, I don't recall whether I don't recall anything from that phone call. I don't recall I may have, but I don't recall. I don't specifically remember.
Do you recall that?
I don't recall. I don't recall this. If you show me this now and ask me the question, do you recall this? I'd have to say I don't recall. What
kind of country is there? No justice for this guy. None. I will leave you with this last one, and then I'll let you go. But take a listen here.
First, you get vaccinated. You were going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us? You get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
Thank you. Let's remember that, folks. So today's a little different show. There's plenty of breaking news to go over, but I'm very concerned the American citizens are being walked straight into a full track and trace surveillance panopticon that will turn the unconstitutional Patriot Act that should have been repealed because it actually helped the terrorists and hurt the American people. But it will go on steroids, and this can never be about Trump or DC or one person or whatever. This has to be about what you believe in, what you think the Constitution and Bill of Rights provides to the American people that is special and unique, like individual liberty, individual sovereignty, autodetermination, inalienable rights from God, full track and trace surveillance and control of everything you do see and buy, and all of that is not the United States of America, nor the constitutional republic we were given. And that has essentially been stolen from us since 1913 and continues to be chipped away at. So anyway, I hope that you learned a lot today. I hope I empowered you in some way to do your own research and to become a voice of truth and justice and all the good stuff that we believe in here at the Mel K Show in your own sphere of influence. And we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
Make sure you tune in to Mel K in the mornings at 12 Eastern every single day. We are doing a daily news show that'll keep you up to date with the things you're not getting anywhere else. The Mel K in the morning show is your place to get morning news daily.
Whispers of freedom loud in the night. Anonymous fighters ready to ignite. Crack the code, crack the chains. Endless courage runs through their veins. Dancing in the digital light they go.
Whether you're a longtime listener or new to the Mel K Show, you do not want to miss our awesome Q&A. We have moved it for convenience to Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So go to themelkshow.com, and for $5 a month, you get exclusive access to me, and we can answer your questions. We will have guests. We will be me and Rob, and you guys are the star of that show. Sunday nights, 7 p.m. at themelkshow.com. Go there now and sign up, just $5 a month. Support independent journalism and get involved in the show.